Hello, welcome to another episode of PapaBear Hikes. All right, this is what we're going to call part 2 to a 3-segment podcast on hiking. I touched on some facts or some, sketched over people talking about getting into hiking for the first time. Now we're going to talk about some of the things you might need to know. I'm going to start with what is commonly referred to as the 10 essentials. And these are really the things that you should never go out hiking without. I'm going to start with 1, navigation. Always have a map and compass. Learn how to use them. And I talked about this in the previous episode. GPS is good, but don't become overly reliant on it. Remember, technology isn't infallible. On more than one occasion, especially during winter hiking trips, batteries will go dead. So you can't consider your GPS to be 100%. You really need that map and compass to get you through batteries will go dead. Always have extra batteries too, okay? That's the other thing. But batteries will go dead. Headlamps. Always bring a headlamp. And again, extra batteries. Now they're making rechargeable headlamps, which is good. You can bring your charging bank with you, your anchor, and recharge it that way. But if you have a headlamp that depends on batteries, please bring extra batteries. And make sure you bring it. On a recent trip to the Adirondacks with my friends, we did something we don't typically do. We hiked to what's called a base camp, set up for the night, and then got up the next morning and we're going to day hike some of the high peaks. So we went about our usual routine, packed up our stuff, except our tent remained where it was because we'd be returning there that night to spend another night. Well, all 3 of us, believe it or not, forgot our headlamps. We survived. We got through. We were able to use our cell phones to give us some light to get back to the campsite. We were only about a half hour from camp when we were totally out of daylight. But even experienced hikers are going to make mistakes. Sun protection. Sunglasses, maybe protective layers of clothing to protect you from, something to protect your arms from the sun. And sunscreen. Don't be fooled into thinking, well, it's not that sunny or I'm going to be in the hiking underneath tree canopies. Have it with you. Put it on. If it's a day when there feels like you're going to be in the sun more than others, you just never know. I mean, there was a couple of years ago, I was hiking through New York, and early morning, I didn't put any sunscreen on. Then by lunchtime, I said, wow, I'm really starting to feel a little bit of a burn on the back of my neck. I put it on. I was okay. But I really should have applied the sunscreen earlier. A first aid kit. This is really important. Nobody sets out to get hurt. Nobody sets out thinking there's going to be an emergency. Have a first aid kit. Make sure it's properly stocked. Even if you buy a store-bought first aid kit that comes with what you think is everything in it, go through it. Be familiar with what's in it and add to it if you think you need to. I have gone from having a store-bought first aid kit to making my own now, where it's custom to the first aid items I know I'm going to need. I have issues with my feet, so moleskin is an important thing to have in my first aid kit, for example. Some of us have personal needs we need to address that should be in our first aid kits. So have a well-stocked first aid kit and be familiar with what's in that kit. Have a knife. And if you don't need a huge multi-tool, you don't need an expensive Leatherman. Your knife can just be something very simple, just with a blade and maybe a nail file or a pair of scissors. I have a $20 Swiss Army knife I use. It just has a simple blade on it. It's only maybe it's about 2.5 to 3 inches long at the most. Very light, but it does what I need to do. You're not going to need all those accessories on a Leatherman that you think when you go on a hike. You're basically going to need your your knife and maybe a pair of scissors to cut up some moleskin, but you keep it simple. And then put together a little repair kit. Something I have, and I keep in a Ziploc. I have some small zip ties in there, some duct tape that I've rolled around a pencil I put an index card in there in case I need to take some notes or leave a note at a trailhead. I put, I have a needle and some dental floss that I've neatly put in there and safely put in there so it doesn't pierce through anything. Just in case, I just kind of assess the type of repairs I may need to make while on the trail. This may sound like, well, I only gone on a day hike. Why do I need all of these things? Well, I'm going to get into some things now where even on a day hike, they could come in handy and you'll regret not having them if you need them. A method of starting a fire. Well, nobody sets out to have an accident. Nobody sets out to say, gee, I'm going to twist my ankle or get hurt to the point where I can't walk out of here tonight. Accidents happen. Have a small little fire starting kit with you. You could take a little cotton ball and get some petroleum jelly on it, stick it in a Ziploc bag, have some matches, make sure everything's protected from the elements, that if it gets wet, the contents are going to stay dry. But matches and a lighter. Have both, matches and a lighter. Shelter. No, you don't need to carry a full-blown backpacking tent with you on a hiking trip, but there are lightweight options. You can find it. Even something as simple as a painter's tarp could do enough to help you set up a shelter to keep the rain off of you if you get stuck out in the middle of the night. There's lightweight, inexpensive alternatives. You do not need to carry a full shelter with you on a day hike, but have something with you that can be turned into a shelter. And know how to do it. Have rope with you to tie it off. If you need tent stakes, throw a few tent stakes in there. Extra food. My rule with food, I typically try to have about 250 calorie snack for every hour I anticipate hiking. Never eat that much, but it's there. And the reason why I use that as my rule of thumb is because it gives me that extra food in case I get stuck out for the night. I have a little extra food. I'm not going to starve. And oftentimes having that extra food could be enough to lift your spirits up, put you in a more positive state of mind. If you're stuck out there in the middle of the night, cold and hungry, spirits are going to go down. You could panic and set in. Food, don't underestimate the importance of having just a little extra food with you. Extra water beyond the minimum. It's a good idea if you're going into a wilderness area. You might think a quart or a liter of water might get me through. Now, whenever I go into a wilderness area, always no less than 2 liters of water. And many times I'll bring my water filter with me just as a backup, or some sort of water treatment. I always at least have water purification pills with me when I go on a day hike. And throw some extra clothing in there. Don't be fooled into thinking, well, it's July, I'm not going to get cold. There's certain places, especially here in the Northeast, where it could get really cold at night, even in July and August. When I was in Massachusetts 2 years ago, I was wearing a fleece at night. The temperatures had dropped down just enough where it got chilly enough for me to need a fleece at night. Throw in an extra sweatshirt, even a pair of thin pair of gloves if it's a summer. Just something to make sure to keep you warm. Again, if you're stuck out there, you could get wet in the middle of your hike and suddenly start feeling cold. It's important. And beyond your 10 essentials, something that's often referred to as the 11th essential. Have a sanitation kit with you. And what's a sanitation kit? Well, it's a trowel to dig yourself a cat hole if you need to go to the bathroom. Hand sanitizer. And just maybe a little bit of soap in a container. I like to use Dr. Bronner's. It's a liquid soap, highly concentrated, so you just need a little drop on your hands so you can wash your hands. They make travel size hand sanitizer. These are just good things I put them in a separate bag, a dry bag. They're there. If I need them, I'm good to go. And I usually throw a few wet wipes in there again, just for sanitation purposes. I've used wet wipes after lunch where I've gotten a little bit of, maybe I've gotten some jelly on my hands and just want to clean up a little bit. They don't weigh that much, and if you need them, you'll be thankful you did. And that pretty much covers what we refer to as we'll call it the 10 plus essentials. I do want to touch a bit on clothing here before I close. There's a saying amongst many hikers, cotton kills. Opt for synthetics. Look for quick, dry clothing. Cotton will lose its ability to keep you warm once it gets wet. It takes forever to dry. I've seen hikers, even in the winter, set out for short hikes, but wearing jeans and wearing sneakers. And all I think when I pass these people is, all I hope somebody doesn't get hurt, because, man, it's going to be one long, dangerous night. They just are not prepared with their clothing. Look for quick, dry, synthetic clothing. And there may be some of you that live in areas where this is not an issue. That's fine, and I respect that. And if you do what makes you feel comfortable. However, my advice is, again, go for the quick dry. Don't take any chances. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and next we'll be touching on some other aspects of hiking. We're going to talk about destinations and how to go about planning your trip, what measures you need to take to plan your trip. So, thanks for listening, and get out there and have fun.